Welcome to my channel, Learn with Joseph. I hope everyone is doing well today. This video is very important to me as it is my first video. So please tell me your thoughts in the comment section of this video. In this video, I will be reviewing the lovely book of Roman Myths by Martin J. Doherty, who is a known writer of mythology and is published by Amber Books in the UK. First and foremost, this is a lovely looking book, nice cover, and it is a hardcover book, and you can take off the little book cover to reveal the actual hardcover of the book. Very pretty to begin with, so that's good. I would like to start off by analyzing the front cover, which has the description of gods, heroes, villains, and legends of ancient Rome. This is a very accurate description of the book, as the book covers mythology of the foundation of Rome, the primary deities and or gods, the lesser deities, and the legends surrounding them, and which are filled with tons of heroic figures, but also very callous villains, which you probably don't want to run into in your everyday life. Next, the book is divided into 6 chapters, plus an introduction, as you can see in the table of contents. All of these sections are filled with wonderful illustrations of different paintings on the topics and a lovely detailed description of the myth, legend, god, or whatever the chapter is trying to describe throughout the book. First and foremost, there's the introduction, and you can see a lovely picture right here. The introduction gives a brief history and social context of Rome. I particularly enjoyed the vivid descriptions that are given in this introduction. Subsequently, chapter 1 is titled The History and Mythology of Rome, right here. As the title alludes to, the ideas of the foundation of the eternal city of Rome are discussed. In this section, I particularly enjoy that the topic of the Homo neanderthalis and Homo sapiens settling in the region and for the first time is discussed, as this is typically overlooked in most archaeological or history books about ancient Rome. However, I view it as a crucial part of history. Moreover, the foundation of Rome, as per Virgil's Aeneid, is discussed, which is how Virgil connects Rome to the city of Troy, which is made famous by Homer's works. Next, the author decides to compare Virgil's version of the foundation of the story to the tale of Romulus and Remus. And for those who don't know, Romulus and Remus were abandoned and sort of cared to by a wolf, a she-wolf, and eventually they became like the founders of Rome. And I thought that was very interesting. I also, on that topic of how they were raised by a she-wolf, look at this lovely statue picture that is in the book to describe how they were raised by this wolf. It's very interesting and gives lovely insight into the culture. Afterwards, the topic of the transformation from the monarch, from the republic to the empire is discussed as well. And also there is the topic of the conversion of the Roman Empire from paganism to Christianity, which was a very, very crucial time in Roman history. Lastly, this chapter includes how the ancient Romans viewed the universe she created, and I love how the author decided to compare it to the Big Bang, which, interestingly enough, is quite similar, and it's good to know. Good to know they were very smart people back then. Next, chapter 2 discusses the primary deities of ancient Rome, which are the 12 main gods, and the legends and myths behind them. These legends and myths are not for the faint-hearted, I would say, as they are pretty gruesome and disturbing. Thus, I advise against reading this book if you have trouble with like gory events or sexually disturbing events. Nevertheless, the tales are quite fascinating and you learn a lot about not only human nature but also about ancient Rome. And this chapter also discusses the views on death in ancient Rome, which I found very interesting, as you can see sort of the similarities with other religions that now exist. The next chapter is chapter 3, obviously, and it's lesser deities and magical beings, which discusses the Diselecti, who are the lesser gods. The major gods, in contrary, are called the Di Contesti. This chapter also talks about magical beings of ancient Rome, including the Furies, which are these mythological creatures that come from the underworld and wreak havoc on wrongdoers in the mortal world, and the Legend of Hercules, which I absolutely adore and highly recommend anyone to read, which in this book is very detailed and easy to read storyline, so it's easy for beginners. And in that story, there's many mythical creatures such as centaurs, and it also demonstrates the wrath of Juno onto Hercules. Furthermore, the idea of Roman virtues is discussed, which is useful to give more information about how their culture was back then and how it shaped their mythology or vice versa. The fourth chapter focuses on Roman writings, and it is called Roman Writings. See? And it talks about like all the different Roman writers of the time, scholars and stuff in their books. And I found that very interesting because I'm sort of a nerd when it comes to literature. Obviously, I have this channel, so that's sort of obvious, but that was very good to know. And I also liked how they included a section about stories or tales that we don't know who the author was, but they still give credit to them, which I think is very important, so that we understand more about maybe the context or just knowing that these were created by someone that we don't know and lost in history. I think it's very influential on someone. And then on that topic, the next chapter is chapter 5, the mundane and mythical world. Mythical worlds gives the reader a glimpse to the life of ancient Rome through their religion, and it discusses like the different festivals and how they worshiped their gods back then, which is very interesting. However, the author could have given a slight more details on the festivities and how exactly they worshipped. I find the detail compared to the rest of the book was lacking here. So that, but nonetheless, it's very good and I still recommend reading it. The final chapter of the book, chapter 6, is called The Legacy of Roman Mythology, right here. And it discusses the impact of Roman mythology on the society of the world as a whole and how it's still influential in modern age, during the medieval age, etc. And I liked how, so he talked about like Shakespeare, which Shakespeare wrote many plays that were influenced on ancient Rome and the classical world. So that's good. However, I was very disappointed that the author did not include any of the influences that are found in J.R. Tolkien's books or Harry Potter, as these books are extremely influenced by the classical world, in particular ancient Rome and their mythology. And when you reread them after knowing some of the mythology, you'll like be amazed of how much there is in there and how much accurate it is to how they would have viewed it back then. So I think that is disappointing that the author did not include that. But the section also discusses influence about the art, military missions, and even special space missions, which is important because it's part of our culture as a humanity and how we perceive things. Overall, I would highly recommend this book to anyone who is interested in ancient Rome or mythology, even if you're a beginner. It's a nice beginner's book. Not so hard to read, understanding, context is given, so I recommend it to anyone. And you can purchase it on Amazon or places like Indigo Chapters. Really, any bookstore you should be able to find this. It's common. It's also quite recent. I think it was published in the past year, so it's quite up to date. And yeah, it's very well written, but there still could be some changes. And I thank you very much for watching this video. And if you enjoyed it, please give me a like and subscribe to my channel for more content similar to this. And see you next time. Thank you very much. Have a lovely day.